SAMA is a program where we invite an expert to talk about the area of expertise. And today we have Dr. Susan Luschas. Susan, you have had your family became very ill. Your oldest child became unwell, and the doctors weren't able to find an answer. They couldn't find the reason why she was so sick. If you can just lead us down this path, please, of what you did to help your child.
Right. So our oldest child became sick, and she just had more and more problems. In hindsight, we probably didn't recognize them for over a year until she finally had stomach pain so bad she couldn't walk, she couldn't go to school, and stopped eating. And finally, we started taking her around all these doctors, and long story short, they gave her all these diagnoses. So she's got all kinds of diagnoses, but she didn't really get better. And we did all the treatments they asked, Western, Eastern, we tried everything, and she just wasn't getting better. So basically what happened was I had to take over as the primary caregiver of our family. Of her basically, and try to recover her health on our own, me mostly, but my husband as well. And we were actually, thank goodness, successful. We learned a lot along the way, and then the rest of our family became sick, and so we also had to clean up our health problems. And then at the end of all this, we're actually doing fantastic. We lead what you would call normal, healthy lives. We look good, we work full time, we go to school, we play sports, we do all the things that maybe a quote unquote normal family might do. And I took then, I guess, almost a year off from my work, additionally to publish everything for free on a website. And now everything's up for free on my website. You can check it out. Everything I've learned, all my opinions, everything is there for free. It's really a charity. I don't make any money off of it. People can donate if they want, but all those donations go towards maintaining the site, improving content. And I'm hoping someday, if we get enough donations, we can start doing some of our own experiments and trials on some things that Big Pharma won't fund.
I've visited your site. Your site is debugyourhealth.com for our viewers if they would like to visit the site. What struck me about the site is how much you've put into it. Mm-hmm. You've devoted basically a huge portion of your life to helping other people, and the depth at which you went to try and find the answers is quite astounding. So on a personal level, I really admire you. You didn't just accept what the doctors were saying. It's, we're not sure what it is, and it's looking like it's this, so you take this treatment. You didn't stop at what the doctors told you. When you weren't getting the results, you looked further. And so, I've got deep respect for what you've done. Now, in your website, you had so many things, so many conditions that you covered. And I decided to go for the 3 A's mm-hmm. In this talk here, the adrenal, allergies, and autism. Mm-hmm. Are they linked in any way? Do they have any common causative factors?
Yeah, I think they do. Now that you put it that way, the 3 A's. I mean, adrenal, allergies, and autism, I actually believe that they're all not really diagnoses. They're all symptoms. We treat them as diagnoses, but all 3 of them are really symptoms. And the number one thing that they tend to be usually symptoms of are gut problems. Leaky gut, maldigesting of food, not the right gut bacteria, SIBO, all kinds of diagnoses that go under the topic of your digestive tract. So I'd argue that fundamentally their root cause is all stems from the digestive tract, and you could go deeper than that and say, well, some of your digestive tract problems might be because you have parasites in there, or because you have a high load of heavy metals in there, other things going on in there. But healing the gut was kind of a big step forward for my oldest child when she got sick, and then for our whole family. Yeah.
Right. On your website, you said that head lice were a problem. They actually were the victor for Lyme, introducing Lyme to you. That must have been, I mean, at a time when you're fighting for your daughter to then become ill yourself and get the brain fog. I was very saddened when I was reading the story, because it was like going from bad to worse and no end in sight, really. And
Yeah,
of course,
we were lucky, though. I don't know if you got that part of the story. Maybe I need to highlight that a little better. I did not have Lyme when I recovered the oldest child. So I was able to think and function pretty well when she was really sick. And then it wasn't until I recovered her, as soon as she was recovered, that's when we had the head lice. And then 6 months after the head lice, myself and my husband and my youngest child, our health went downhill. So we were very lucky that our oldest daughter suffered for many years, and that we were able to figure her out before the rest of us got it. Because had I gotten it then, I don't know that I would have had the ability to figure hers out and then to recover the rest of us. So we were really lucky.
Oh, lucky, it wouldn't be the word that I would have really used, because it's sort of like one thing after the other. But I guess the timing was, if you have to have Lyme, I guess it's best to have it after you've, overcome one medical condition. So just going through the steps with your oldest daughter. Please take us through the story, because I'm very intrigued to know the details, like what the doctors were saying was wrong with her, what her symptoms were, and how you came to find out just what the true cause was for your daughter's illness.
I mean, they said they diagnosed her with everything on our website, which is, allergies and GI, all kinds of GI, gastritis, blood and stool, hernias, autism, parasites. Some people knew it was parasites, but they didn't know how to treat it. So literally MTHFR, methylation problems, every single topic on our website almost was one of the diagnoses she's had. The Lyme diagnosis itself, we didn't get until she was recovered. So she didn't even test positive for Lyme until she was recovered, which is pretty typical of Lyme. It takes out the immune system, so your body doesn't produce antibodies, and antibodies is what the test is testing for. So she didn't actually test positive for Lyme until after she was recovered. So we kind of fixed something by fixing the gut. Primarily was the main thing we did, which got her mostly recovered. But we didn't even find out about the Lyme piece until after she was recovered. She had all kinds of diagnoses that I'm probably forgetting along the way. We went to, I don't know how many, probably 7 or 10 pediatricians and GI experts and allergy experts and autism experts. And it didn't really matter to me what the diagnosis was. It's just that she wasn't getting better, because if she wasn't able to go to school, that means I'm not able to work. And that means I have to spend my time taking care of her, which of course is sometimes part of being a parent, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I wanted a child who could function. So we just didn't give up, and like I said, we healed the gut. We did some other stuff on our own finally, because all the doctors had kind of given up, and they told us it was in our head, and it was in her head, and I was being too negative, and that's why she was in her head and whatever. When they can't figure something out, sometimes they go for you're mentally, impaired or whatever, which, maybe I did. I mean, I did have some mental growth to go through to stay positive during all this and to not give up. But it definitely was not in her head, and it was definitely not in my head either. Just made up. So,
Okay, so you, so in restoring her health, her gut health, what steps did you take?
for the gut piece, the main part of the gut piece is changing your diet. So I think we had to really get rid of all sugars in her diet, and we aren't the kind of family that would eat cake or donuts or any of those things anyway, but we had to really get rid of fruit. We had to get rid of sweet vegetables. We had to get rid of all of those things. We really had to get rid of the sugar to get the bacterial flora in her gut to shift, because turns out that yes, the good guys eat sugars and starches, but so do the bad guys. And when you've got too many bad guys in there, you've got to hit them hard. So you've got to hit them with the diet. You've got to hit them with some supplements. So we also hit hard with some supplements. We did some microbiology stool cultures to see what that came up with. And we hit hard with some supplements. We hit hard with the diet. She also needed stomach acid. So when people have allergies and GI issues, they usually aren't producing enough stomach acid. And so she also had to be supplemented with some stomach acid when she ate meals to help boost or get the digestive process off to the correct start, so that the rest of the digestive process could occur the way it's supposed to, which also helps shift the balance of bacteria.
Right.
So she needed the stomach acid as well. And the other main piece for her on the gut side was the hernia. She definitely did have the hernia, the hiatal hernia. We saw it on x-rays at the hospital. We also, we were able to get that fixed with a chiropractor. And it turns out kids that are skipping meals or maybe not eating or nauseous sometimes, they probably do have a hiatal hernia. So that's a good thing to check for, that a lot of people don't associate it with healing the gut. They talk about probiotics. Well, probiotics weren't even really helpful for us. We took some probiotics to help, but what really helped was getting rid of the diet piece, the stomach acid piece, and the hernia piece.
Okay. And so what changes did you see in your daughter as she, as you're changing her diet and giving her the other supplements? What improvements did you see?
Well, first she got worse. And I think this is probably true of anyone going through a massive gut flora shift, is that's a biological, medical shift for your body, and you start digesting food differently, you start feeling differently, and as those bacteria die off, as the bad guys kind of die away, that makes you feel pretty rotten. So when we first shifted the diet, we all shifted it, our whole family shifted it in support of her. We weren't going to eat different food from our child. So my husband, I think he was home from work in bed sweating for about 2 days. I definitely was pretty out of it for a couple of days as well. The oldest child, she went fully autistic once we shifted the diet, once we really got rid of the last cup of rice she was eating per day and the last serving of fruit she was eating per day. Once we really got that out of her diet, she pretty much went fully autistic, like unable to go outside, rocking back and forth in a dark corner. So she got a lot worse. And so my husband was like, oh, let's stop. She's getting worse. Well, no, I knew that it was probably a die-off, or what they call a Herx reaction, and that a shift is a good thing when you're trying to make a change, right? A shift is a good thing. And that probably if we were able to push through and get her detoxing, get her draining, she would probably come out of it. And sure enough, about a week after we shifted the diet, she was the best she'd ever been. But she had to get worse before she got better. And I think that's a very common theme for autistic children or autistic people in general, especially people with allergies, all these topics. When you try to shift, really try to shift the gut, you're probably going to get worse before you get better.
How is your daughter now?
Fantastic. Fantastic. She's
no signs of autism, sorry?
Not that I can tell.
Wow.
Not that I can tell. In fact, I mean, her school doesn't know she's autistic. I don't talk about it at school. I don't tell any of the parents. I told one of her teachers who moved away to a different state, and she said, "Wow, really?" I mean, she kind of didn't believe me. So, and I've taken her now to some I don't know, doctors who've seen her, and they think I'm crazy. They don't believe me, actually, that she was ever autistic, which is fantastic. I'd rather be, have a healthy child and be called a liar than than the other way around. So so she's doing fantastic. She plays soccer and she's involved in school, all kinds of things, and she's a healthy, really radiant child. You can check out some pictures on the website. Those are actual pictures. You can see what our family looks like and what
Yes.
our children look like. So
I wonder, Susan, how many children that are displaying autistic characteristics, whether they can be, be made, so that they haven't got these symptoms anymore, just by changing the diet and following the program the regime that you'd set up for your child. And they might be needlessly, suffering these symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Right. I don't know for sure. I can say that there's a famous autism doctor in England called Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, and she claims that up to age 8, all children can be fully recovered, and she says after age 8 there's starts to be permanent brain damage. So I don't know. Personally, I can say that I've never seen a child who hasn't been recoverable under age 8. But usually the problem is the parents don't have the strength, because changing your diet and getting rid of all sugars, including fruit, is really hard. And it's hard on the parents. I mean, the parents are going to be sick too for a couple days. And then they have to watch their child's autism get worse. And most parents quit right there. The child starts getting worse. They themselves start feeling bad, and they never get there. So that's my opinion.
It's a shame, but I mean, in your case, you've got, your child did get worse, and then she got better, and you've published this onto your site. And so people, if they take the time out and read your site, which is debugyourhealth.com, they'll be prepared mentally. They'll know it's going to come, and so they're just going to have to just take it. Yeah. Now, allergies. Do you think it's a similar? You've got to again look after your gut to more complex than that.
Yeah, I think allergies, again, I think are a symptom, not a root cause. And I think the root cause of allergies is also in the gut. So I think it kind of goes back to the same thing. You've got to heal your leaky gut in order to get your allergies under control. I can say for myself, I definitely had not many allergies, but I started getting hay fever, or sort of the spring allergy, around my 20s, and it would get worse every year. And I can say since we've actually had to work on our health and heal our gut and all of that, my allergies have gone away. So I don't even have the springtime sneezes anymore. That just doesn't exist anymore for us. So I think, or for me or for anybody in our family. So I think healing the gut really took care of our allergies, and that's not the reason we did it, but it was kind of a nice side effect. I also mentioned on the site that allergies can be cleared with this energetic treatment. So either Zyto or Bioset, or there's other technologies out there now. Those can treat allergies, and they are pretty good. So you can literally walk in there with spring hay fever and walk out and be completely free of all your symptoms. The problem is that if you don't heal your gut, those symptoms will come back. And the treatment won't last very long. So the permanent answer to it is to heal your gut.
Okay. And permanently change your diet, I guess.
Right.
I'm doing. Okay. What other triggers are there, do you think, for allergies?
What do you mean besides
Like,
pollen and trees and things like that?
I didn't ask the question properly, I guess. What other things can cause allergies? Are there any other things that you can address? You talked about your gut, but are there any other things you can do? Are there any supplements that you can take, or lifestyle changes?
I think, changing, sure. I mean, lifestyle changes, yeah, you need to sleep, you need to eat, and you need to eat healthy food and eat good food, and you need to de-stress. I think those are all important for allergies. I mean, allergies really are an overreaction of the immune system. They're really an autoimmune disease. So
Right.
anything that affects the immune system, which includes all your lifestyle factors, stress, diet, exercise, sleep, that affects the immune system. I think, though, for most of us that have allergies, and the autoimmune disease, I think for most of us Westerners, it really goes back to the gut and to the gut flora and to what we're eating and to the hernias and to not producing enough stomach acid, and maybe also some parasites and heavy metals in there as well. So I think that's, I think the bulk of it for most of us. For allergies in terms of supplements, sure, some people get relief from the typical things, bromelain, nettles, quercetin is common. I think one of the best products I liked out there was a product called D-HIST, HST. Again, I don't make any money or offer these referrals, so I thought that was a pretty good product. But again, it doesn't solve the root cause, and I think you're going to feel a lot better overall if you solve the root cause.
Okay. When I was looking on your website, I noticed that there's mention of a mutation in one's DNA. Something like 40% of the population have a mutation that make them susceptible to certain illnesses or conditions. I'm wondering if you could just talk to us a bit about that.
So I assume you're talking about the MTHFR, the methylation mutation, which I discuss a little bit on the site. So that became popular a few years back, that everybody was getting tested for MTHFR methylation mutations. I think that, it was popular. A lot of people were talking about it. And so we got tested. Yeah, we have mutations. It basically means that your body has difficulty in the processing of certain vitamins, including B vitamins, and the energy cycle that your body needs that your cells need to have energy. So if you have one of these mutations, your body is sort of less likely to do that properly. But I no longer believe that it means that you can't methylate. So what I think is that if you're healthy, your body's going to try to methylate whether you have that mutation or not. And and I say that from our experience, because we all have mutations. All 4 of us in our family. I published the mutations on the website. You can go check out which ones we have. And we all have different ones. Somehow that worked out that way. And in the beginning, when we were symptomatic and when we weren't feeling well, we needed methylation supplements. So we needed usually some kind of methylcobalamin or methylated B vitamin. And that we needed that to get through the day and to have enough energy. Now we hardly ever take a methylation supplement, very rarely. We just don't need them. My oldest child, at one point, she was in a phase where without that methylation supplement, she could not make it through her school day. And now that's no longer the case. So I think once you, again, solve some of these other chronic infections, bad gut flora, parasites, get some heavy metals out, your body, guess what, starts methylating again like it's supposed to.
Okay, so it's when you became ill with Lyme, that's just when your body became compromised and couldn't methylate correctly. And the fact that your DNA you had this mutation that which made it harder for your body, if you like, to methylate. That made matters worse. Is that a good take on it?
Yeah, kind of. I think with Lyme was kind of the backbreaker for our family. So before we had Lyme, we definitely had parasites. We definitely had this methylation mutation that we were just talking about. We definitely had gut flora that wasn't perfect. My husband and I both had dental infections. We all had all these things before, but then once our bodies got Lyme on top of all of that, that's when we stopped. Our bodies said, whoa, too much. We can't function anymore. We have major symptoms now. So I think in order to get at the Lyme, you have to get at a lot of these other chronic infections that your body has and chronic problems that your body has going on. You have to work on those in order to get the Lyme under control.
Okay. How did you know you had dental infections?
I didn't think I had any. My husband, we kind of had a clue because he had a root canal tooth that was number 9 right in front. And that tooth would go up and down with the season. So depending on what season or what the barometric pressure was here, you could literally see the tooth go up and down. So obviously that doesn't sound quite right. But he still refused to get it removed because he said it was fine. But anyway, what happened was we happened upon them. We knew our oldest child had parasites. She had been recovered. She was pretty much functional, but she still had this like horseshoe, it was like a rash on her arm, and it was just kind of a horseshoe that went on like that. And it would come around the full moon every month. And so we knew it must be some kind of a parasite or something, but we had tried all these treatments that everyone had, doctors here locally or that we'd heard of. We tried everything, and she still had that thing coming up every month. And I just thought, well, I don't know. I still didn't know at that point necessarily what we had about the Lyme. I guess at that point I did know about the Lyme. I had just found out about the Lyme, but I didn't want this to kind of get worse or to make the Lyme flare up again or, to go back to where we were. So I figured, well, we know there's something that's still not right. So we basically had, in hindsight, we only had one choice, and that was to go to Simon U in St. Louis, Missouri. So we flew the whole family there. He's the only MD we have in this country who's prescribing parasite medications, because that was the one thing we hadn't tried. We had tried everything else. And so I figured, well, we got to go see him because that's the one thing we haven't tried. So we went to see him. Turns out Simon diagnoses dental infections as well as parasitic infections. So we went there for parasites, and we ended up getting parasites and dental diagnosed by him. And, he said, look, you should really clean up these dental things. And he's written a book about dental miracles and how much better people feel. And yeah, it turns out in our case, he was completely right. I can't believe how much better I felt after I got my dental issues taken care of. The ringing in my ears is gone. My husband's back pain is gone. He feels great. So it was really a blessing, and it's something we kind of happened upon when we were trying to really get at the bottom of parasites.
It's wonderful. It's interesting about your husband's tooth going up and down. I mean, to know whether it's going to rain that day or not, just get him to smile.
Yeah.
So you know what the barometric pressure is.
Yeah.
Now, if someone has got an allergy, I guess you'd recommend that they still avoid the any food triggers until they have until they address the underlying cause for the allergy and get things more under control. Right?
Probably a good idea. I mean, if that's causing an over response to the immune system, you want your immune system to focus on shifting your gut flora and dealing with the bad guys that you're going to be trying to kill. So you definitely don't want to be in the middle of an immune response when you're trying to really solve the root cause problem. So yeah, if you have an allergy to a specific thing or a specific food or whatever, I would definitely avoid it. but then I would set as a goal to try to eliminate that allergy. Allergies are not permanent. They can be changed and they can be eliminated.
And I guess allergies can be eliminated at most ages. Like you eliminated hay fever from yourself as an adult. So in that aspect, whereas autism might be, restricted to, the age of 10 and under, allergies possibly at older ages.
Yeah.
I'm just going through some of the questions I've got here, Susan. A lot of them are really targeted to a physician to answer. What do you recommend for colitis and anaphylaxis reactions? And it's really, for questions like that, it's really best for a trained medical doctor to answer. So I'll skip questions like this. But there are some questions which could be discussed perhaps. Now, someone's asking, what is the difference between a food allergy and a food intolerance? But
I'm not really an expert on that topic either, but I mean, food allergy is where your immune system mounts a response against that food. So it's usually a pretty severe response, like your throat starts to swell or you break out in hives or something like that. Whereas a food intolerance is usually more of a digestive issue. So just you eat dairy and you kind of feel icky, rather than you break out in hives or your throat starts to swell up. But I believe that both of them have kind of the same root cause.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Another person asks, if both my partner and I have allergies, will our children also get allergies? It's almost like a genetic question, isn't it?
Well, it's an interesting question, because then I would say, well, maybe it depends how the baby's birthed. And that sounds like a weird answer, but the babies get their gut flora and their biome through the birth canal. And so it depends how healthy the mother is, what allergies the mother has, and how the baby is birthed. And then from there, it depends what the baby's exposed to and what they're eating as to which gut flora actually take hold. But I think in most families, my personal observation is that in most families, if the parents have allergies, the kids usually do too.
Okay. I guess the diet would be similar, because they'd eat similar foods within the family. And so if the diet is deficient in some minerals, there could also be a causative factor, perhaps. Did you have a detox regime for initially your oldest daughter, and then later on, yourself and the family? Could you talk us through what steps you took to detox, please?
Yeah, so we did a lot of detox, things that would come under the category of detox. I think probably the most, in hindsight now, not really the order we did it, but in hindsight, probably the most powerful for us now is an enema. So if we're really having a detox crisis or something going on, I would generally tend to go for the enema. That's usually the quickest, fastest way. And my kids have been taking enemas for a long time, so doing an enema on them is not really a big deal. We like activated charcoal in the enema for detox. That tends to work well. We also did a lot of detox along the way. I think for us, the sauna has been pretty useful. We actually did get a sauna because the Lyme took away the endocrine system of my oldest child, so she stopped sweating. So we needed a sauna to get her sweating again. But we do use the sauna as detox. We think that's pretty good. And then we've done some skin brushing. We've done some things like that. That's been pretty useful as well. So those are probably, there's a lot of things under detox, but those are probably the main ones.
Okay. A question that has been asked. I have a child who won't take pills, won't do enemas, and who barely cooperates with anything. If you're in the situation, Susan, what would you do?
Yeah, if the child doesn't take pills or doesn't cooperate with anything, I would start with the detox, the drainage and the diet. So you could, if the child doesn't really cooperate, one thing you could do is you could take them to a Zyto or a Bioset or an energetic practitioner. Sometimes they can open up some detox or drainage pathways for the child, and that takes very little cooperation to do that. And if you can identify maybe some drainage remedies, maybe some homeopathics, those can go on the skin. You can just rub them onto the skin. For the diet piece, that's get rid of all sugars. And I know that can be difficult on a child. They'll probably stop eating, but that's okay. They'll eat eventually. I would kind of power through that. And usually once you get kids off sugar, they become pretty cooperative.
That's what I've seen in school studies when they remove the fizzy drinks and the snack food in the cafeterias. The behaviour behaviour generally is significantly improved at these schools. So it's something so simple.
Yeah.
Okay, and just going through the questions now. Adrenal fatigue. That's quite a big. That's quite a big. Quite a big subject. The questions are, what are the symptoms of adrenal fatigue?
Well,
you can tell us.
I think the main symptom of adrenal fatigue is exhaustion. Usually people get to the point where they're so exhausted they can't really do anything anymore, and then they go into the doctor and they're diagnosed with either thyroid problems or adrenal problems. That's usually what happens.
Okay. The next question is, what are the causes of adrenal fatigue? I guess you've covered a lot of them already. Are there any other causes that we haven't discussed so far?
I think for adrenal fatigue, the easiest place to look at your lifestyle. Make sure you're eating well, sleeping, exercising, de-stress. Get your lifestyle dialed in. Now, for a lot of us, we get that dialed in and we still are exhausted. So then you start to look at the gut. Is your gut really functioning properly? Do you need stomach acid? Maybe do a microbiology stool test to see if you have any really bad guys in there that are overgrown. And then start to look, after that, you start to look for maybe some hidden parasitic infections, hidden dental infections. Maybe you look for heavy metals and toxins, so like pesticides or toxins. And then after that, the next thing would probably be the methylation mutation, the genetic mutation, and see if maybe you just need to kickstart your body with methylation.
Right. I'm just wondering whether it's a good idea for pretty much anyone to have that test, because it may be good to be aware of any weakness that your body may have, and just keep an eye out for them. The when you saw that doctor and he treated you for parasites, we skipped over that very quickly, but if we can go into that with a bit more detail, please. What did you specifically do to rid your body from parasites?
So the doctor we saw, he actually prescribes prescription parasite medications. And we had tried before that all kinds of other remedies. We tried zappers, we tried rife machines, we tried singing tones, we tried energetic treatments, homeopathics, herbals. We even grew herbals in our garden here and compounded them ourselves. I mean, we tried everything that anyone had ever suggested, the diet, the papaya seeds, all of that. It's all listed on the website, everything we tried, but none of it really worked. Like I said, we still had this skin thing that would come in on the full moon. So that's when I decided, well, the only thing left that I can think of is this prescription medications. And so we went to see him, and he prescribed us prescription medications. And in hindsight, I think, thank goodness, one of the things we did first was enemas. And I think you shouldn't be taking prescription medications for parasites until you've done enemas first, because with the enemas, you can wash out some worms, and it's definitely better to do that than it is to kill them in your body and have your body try and excrete them. So any worm you can get out whole without medications is going to be a lot better. You're going to feel a lot better later, and you're going to be thankful that you got some out early. So thank goodness we had the foresight to do enemas first and then take the medications. And when we took the medications, we were all completely flat on our back, hammered, parasites coming out everywhere, and kept doing enemas again to kind of help them keep coming out instead of our body sort of reabsorbing. Because what happens is some of the bigger parasites like worms and flukes, which is mostly what we had, when they die, they release everything that's inside of them. And what's inside of them is a bunch of bacteria and viruses and heavy metals and toxins. And they're actually, in a way, doing some of us a favor by storing those things in their own bodies. And once you kill them with medications, they die, they release all that. And so people can get really sick once they start taking those medications because those parasites release all that into our system.
Do you think it's very likely that most people have parasites in their body and just aren't aware of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think our family had parasites. I mean, I think I've had liver flukes my whole life probably and dealt with them just fine until I got, like I said, the dental infections on top of that and the Lyme on top of that and some gut problems on top of that. And then my body stopped functioning. But I think most of us have parasites. The doctor that we went to see in St. Louis, what he's most probably famous for is curing cancer with parasite medications, because it's the same kind of cancer is also an autoimmune disease, and the body has too many chronic infections. And so once he clears these people up of parasite infections, as well as sometimes dental infections, guess what? Their autoimmune problem goes away.
So it could be something so simply solved just by removing the parasites and resolving the dental issues. Gosh.
It sounds very simple, but if you've ever been on parasite medications, you'll know that it's not easy. And if you've ever had dental surgery, you'll know that's no piece of cake either.
I'm going to go just ask a few questions on the dental side very shortly. But you said at one time that there's only one doctor in your area that prescribes drugs for parasites. So what do people do if they feel that they have got a parasite load in their body? What can they do?
I should clarify a little bit. He's the only one prescribing parasite medications properly.
Okay.
So we have a few other doctors around, but they don't really understand the medications. They don't really understand what they're doing. They do these, it's very common now, not just in the US, not common, I wouldn't say common, that's probably the wrong word, but there are some in the US and more in Europe, in Western Europe, that are doing these protocols of like 2 days on the medication, 2 days off, and people don't get sick, which is great, but all you're doing, you're not hitting them hard enough. So the parasites become resistant to those medications. So the doctor that we saw in St. Louis, he's been treating parasites for over 30 years, kind of an older dude. And he believes that parasites are hard to kill and you have to hit them long and hard. And our family's experience completely backs that up. He's absolutely right. In fact, I am now of the opinion he doesn't even hit long enough or hard enough because he can't, because of the medical licensing board. But so there are some that are, like I said, doing these sort of 2 days on or a couple days off, a couple days on. And that's not gonna really get your parasites for you. So there's only one that really is prescribing them properly. What do people do? Literally people fly from all over the world to see this man. Some of them, look on my website, they're on the parasite tab. There's videos that show how we test for parasites, because now our family has our own method of testing, how we figure it out, and people can do that at home. They can learn that at home. They can check out the videos on our website, or you can fly to St. Louis and see him.
Wonderful. And finally, the dental issues. If you can talk about the steps you took to remove or to resolve the infections in your teeth, and possibly removing any heavy metals in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't actually have any amalgams at the time. I only ever had one amalgam in my whole life, and I had it removed many, many years ago. And my husband had some amalgams, but he had them also removed many, many years ago. If you do the amalgam, you definitely want to go to a Huggins-trained dentist, or one that does proper removal. You don't want to have them do it wrong and then have more mercury put into your body. So we didn't really have the amalgam problem. What we had, and what most people I think have, is root canal infections and extracted tooth socket infections. So let me start with the root canal infections. It's very hard to do a root canal without an infection. And there have been books and people have come out, talking about this. I've seen a couple of dentists claim that 99% of all root canals are infected. And I think they're right. I think they are. But I think that a lot of people don't have Lyme and maybe don't have as many parasites and don't have as many heavy metals in their body. So they deal just fine with their root canal infection, and they live a long, happy life, and they die with the root canals, and they do fantastic. They die at age 90 or 100 with root canals, and they're infected, but their bodies can take care of it. And I think that's awesome. But once you get Lyme and some of these other things, you probably need to clean up some of those dental infections so that your body can really focus on some other things like Lyme. So the root canals, my husband had a root canal. I did not have any. And so basically what happened was we had to have that extracted. He had his root canal extracted, and then we replaced it with a bridge. And I think that you could have replaced it with an implant. I'm not convinced that implants aren't infected either. So I think for people that are really concerned about their health or maybe have some symptoms, I think the real thing to do is focus on a proper extraction, get that proper extraction, get your symptoms relieved, and then figure out what to do. I would either do probably a bridge or a partial, would be my default recommendations. What I had was an extracted tooth socket infection. I had my 4 wisdom teeth extracted when I was a teenager. It was in vogue to take all the wisdom teeth out proactively. In hindsight, I had plenty of room for my wisdom teeth. I should have kept them, but my parents were making the decision, not me. So I had all 4 wisdom teeth sockets infected. It turns out if there's a membrane around the tooth, and if that membrane isn't properly taken out, then that creates a pocket where bacteria can fester and grow without blood flow. And that's what I had. You could see the membrane in my x-rays. The x-rays are posted on the website if you want to check them out. And so they had to open up all 4 wisdom teeth sites, clean them out properly, and then my body had to heal that again.
Gosh. So you had all your wisdom teeth, you had work on your wisdom teeth done twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. I've just had a question in from Alex from the Facebook group. You've kind of answered it already. He asks, what did the doctor do to fix dental infections? And then he goes on to further ask, did he diagnose it with a 3D x-ray? Do you know whether he used a 3D x-ray for?
So the answer to the 3D x-ray part is no. So the doctor we were diagnosed with, he uses a technique called AMA, acupuncture meridian assessment. So it's basically a machine that measures impedance along the meridian, and he looks for imbalances along that. So it's kind of an energetic testing method that he uses to diagnose the dental infections. I have a different method that's basically a muscle testing method. And if you click on the dental tab of my website, there's several videos there that show exactly how I test for dental infections, because I've had to learn how to test myself, because once we came home, I had to see, okay, is it still infected? Is my husband still infected? Are we clear now? You know, kind of had to be able to do that myself. So I have those muscle testing videos online for free. You can check them out. As for what the doctor did, he didn't do anything. I went to an oral surgeon to get these cleaned out. I'm of the opinion you really don't want to go to a dentist. You probably want an oral surgeon. If you're in the US, the insurance tends to cover an oral surgeon a little bit better. And there's a checklist on my website that has a checklist for everything you're looking for in a practitioner. So you want to make sure they understand how to remove the periodontal membrane when they're in there. You want to make sure they use ozone. You want to do your post-op procedure. You want to definitely load yourself up with some vitamin C. There's a homeopathic remedy I really like for dental infections. It's called Body Mend for after surgery. So anyway, there's a checklist. It's a nice one-page checklist that you can download for free from my website and just go through that and see what you're looking for in terms of finding an oral surgeon, finding a practitioner. I personally only in the US so far have one practitioner that I refer to. He has a really good success rate. I just haven't seen good success rates from any of the others, and I don't know why.
Yeah, well, there we have it. Well, we've thank you so much, Susan, for your time today. Everybody, this is Dr. Susan Luschas. She's been talking to us about the adrenal allergies and autism and a bit more besides. Now, Susan's website is debugyourhealth.com. On her website, she has a donation section. I'd like, the Spooky team will be contributing to your fund to help support your cause, and I hope that many of our viewers do as well. Susan, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. It was nice to be here.
Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.